This video is on balance of power, in short known as BOP. It is a concept within the realist theory of international relations. So, since it is entirely a realist concept, in order to grasp it properly, we need to understand the realist theory of international relations. So, what is realism? It is the most dominant theory of international relations. IR is supposed to start with realism and it has been the most prevalent out of all the theories. Then it is based on the assumption of an anarchical system. A principle of might is right. Big fish eats small fish is supreme. Why? Because unlike the domestic sphere, where anarchy, mayhem has been curtailed with the government, at the international level, no higher authority exists. So there is anarchy at this level. Okay. No rule of law equally applies to all. As a result of this scenario, then states wish to survive against the threat of other states. And this happens with all the states. All of them are scared of the threat which the other states pose. Okay. So, what do they rely on? Self help. They believe only they themselves can help themselves. And for that, they try to become more powerful. Now, there are many ways to become powerful, but the most significant one here we can say is getting more and more weapons, bigger, more sophisticated weapons than the other rival country. So, we can say that the realist theory provides the most powerful explanation of the state of war, right? States, because of anarchy, are perpetually in a state of war. They're either preparing for it or then, if worse comes, fighting a war. And therefore, obviously, under the realist understanding of international system, war is the regular condition of life, something which is the norm and not an exception. Now, for BOP, another something we have to look at is Napoleon Bonaparte. Who was he? French military and political leader. When did he emerge? After the French Revolution in 1790s. Okay. And what did he do? Established a French empire in Europe. He occupied vast spheres of land in Europe and brought various states under his control and spread the ideas of French Revolution, which were liberty, equality, fraternity, and nationalism. Okay. And then, after reigning on for many years, he was defeated in the year 1814. So, then comes Congress of Vienna, our main event, which led to BOP, balance of power. Okay. Now, obviously, it was a congress, means a gathering, a congregation. Okay. And who attended? The victors over Napoleon. Great powers such as Russia, Great Britain, Prussia, which eventually became Germany, and Austria. Austria was most important because one, it was the host, and second, its prince, Clement von Metternich, he played a deciding role in bringing the countries together. Okay, and this meeting, it happened the next year of Napoleon's defeat. That is, he was defeated in 1814, so 1815 it was. Then, this Congress was also the first voluntary and formal effort to establish balance of power as a principle of international politics. And for what? To achieve peace in European conditions of that time. So, they formed an alliance called the Concert of Europe to make sure not again a hegemonic and all powerful leader like Napoleon emerges. They denied France of the territory captured by Napoleon and restored the kingdoms of kings. So they undid whatever Napoleon had done. Okay. Now, this process of not letting an aggressor rise was also called the Congress system or Metternich system, and it met various times from this period to the start of World War I in 1914. Remember, Napoleon escaped from a prison in 1815 only, but he was decisively defeated this time at Waterloo, which is in Belgium. Okay, it is said that the system, which resulted from Congress of Vienna, provided a long 19th century, a period of long peace. No major wars were there. Okay, now let's get to the definition of balance of power. There are various meanings, but the most common definition is if the survival of a state is threatened by a hegemonic state or coalition of stronger states, they should join forces, establish a formal alliance, and seek to preserve their own independence by checking the power of the opposing side. Okay, so this is what was done in Congress of Vienna as well. Then briefly, what is balance of power? It is great powers in equilibrium. No one has more power over the others. No one should be allowed to become an aggressor. And if that happens, these powers, the others, would come together to punish or defeat the aggressor and re establish balance. And in this situation, there are no permanent friends because anyone can become an aggressor. The realist system is such you cannot trust others as there is no rule of law to stop you or your rivals. So, nations seek continuous alignments and realignments to maintain balance. Then, it is for preserving liberty because an aggressor would invade you and your liberty would be under threat. Okay, so it is a realist approach for establishing liberty and peace. Power will manage power. Realist approach is all about amassing more power, right? Now, balance of power can be institutionalized or not. Okay, you can set up an organization like NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or there may be an informal understanding to come against an aggressor. So, as we have already discussed, the concept under the Congress of Vienna, the Concert of Europe, gave Europe 100 years of peace. Okay, but that also means after 100 years, the peace was disrupted. So, balance of power cannot give durable, everlasting peace. Okay, now what are some of the examples of balance of power? Let's take a look. Apart from the origin in Europe, number one is Cold War. Two opposing superpowers balanced each other. They also established military pacts such as USA's NATO and Soviet Union's Warsaw Pact. Okay. Then in World War II, when Germany rose and posed a threat, Britain and France collaborated. Okay. Then Quad or Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. We have a detailed video on this. I will link it in the description box. So under Quad, USA, India, Japan and Australia are said to have come together to restrain the expanding Chinese designs. Okay. Lastly, some say that India and USA are seeking to contain China in Central Asia. Okay. So what do the protagonists say? We should take a look at how do the protagonists or supporters of balance of power defend it. They say this concept would always be relevant. It is expected to stay a central concept of international system. They say this system is based on small military powers which can balance each other, and most of the states in world are small, so this concept is here to stay. But we have seen that big powers also use it, right? Some say it is relevant and that it is evident in the fact that we are discussing it. We are having discussions over it. Okay. Then David Hume, a scholar, says it would persist till common sense persists. For realists, remember, realism is common sense. Okay. They have a certain perception of the world which they think is the right one. Then some say there is both hard BOP, which involves military power, and soft, which is based on more ad hoc arrangements. Okay. But the thing is, scenario has changed. Lots of alterations have happened in international system in the past few decades. One is non-state actors are emerging. And for this, new concepts are required as BOP is only based on a state system. Okay? So then, what do the antagonists or critics say? Jawaharlal Nehru, the Indian Prime Minister, said it was a nervous state of peace. Why? Because peace cannot be assured. Nations will continue to acquire more and more power, and at some time, wrong calculations of others or own power would lead to war. Some say it inoculates against measles but spreads plagues. So, bigger wars it causes. In Europe, for instance, World War I happened after a 100-year peace since 1815. Some say that this concept is based on wrong kinds of assumptions. It assumes that nations will ignore their national interests and go to war for others or for the sake of balance of power itself. Okay. Another criticism is that Congress of Vienna was a congregation of reactionary conservative rulers. Metternich is known as champion of conservatism. Why? Because he, along with others, gave those territories back to hereditary monarchs where people were fighting for democratic rights as a result of ideas of French Revolution which the military campaigns of Napoleon had spread. Okay. Then some critics say that soft balance of power as a concept is wrong because power is always based on hardcore violence. So this concept muddies or confuses our understanding of power or balance of power. Then some say when a unilateral system emerges or a single superpower emerges, you cannot possibly balance it. It would be too powerful, right? Like in case of USA when China was still weaker in the 90s. Okay. Then others say that how to balance nuclear weapons. As an answer, the BOP thinkers say you also get nuclear weapons, and this they call balance of terror. And this kind of strategic bipolarity ensures nobody attacks the others because it would lead to mutual destruction. So the BOP thinkers say it is a good situation to have that opposing powers have nuclear weapons. Okay. Then another criticism is that asymmetric actors or terrorists have risen. How to balance them? For this, BOP thinkers give the concept of asymmetric balancing. That is, states will cooperate against terrorists, but states rarely agree on who is the terrorist, what is terrorism, right? One country's terrorists are other country's freedom fighters. Then some say when United Nations has come up, and with it this system of collective security, then that assures more peace than BOP, which is a less institutionalized version of collective security. Okay. So UN poses a challenge to the system of BOP. Lastly, we can say that new theories have come up, liberal, constructivist, and more recently, critical theories, which question the entire thought process of realism. So, a huge challenge to concepts such as balance of power have arisen as a result. With this, we have come to the end of this video. If it helped, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much.